All right. We're live. We're
All
rolling.
right, we're live.
All right.
Better than being dead, that's for sure.
Man, Brad, it's exciting
Yeah,
to be here, hanging out at the ABSA show.
man, it's cool because they've got such a good selection of bikes. They got racing going on next door at the SoCal Nats, and it's all happening. It's really cool.
It's fun. There's a lot going on. I mean, right now, what are we looking at? I don't know. It's close to 100 people. Well, 60
Yeah.
people kicking around in here.
I'm gonna say 75.
Okay.
Let's go
fair
high.
enough.
No,
We'll
but
meet in the middle. And well, you and I mean, we have extensive history now.
Yes,
Met each other 5 minutes ago.
that's right.
Brad, why don't you kick us off, introduce yourself, and then talk about a little bit of your history in BMX.
Okay. Well, my name's Brad Fanshaw, and I, along with Tim Lilthorpe, we do the Super Rad BMX podcast on YouTube and available everywhere you can find a audio podcast. But my roots go very deep in BMX. I started racing in the 70s as a youngster and raced in San Diego, the likes of Bike Shop El Cajon, Rancho San Diego, La Mesa. Raced with guys like Eddie King, Coy Hudson, a lot of, Boo Boo Moreno, a lot of those guys, until my dad came home one day and said, hey, guess what? We're moving to Omaha, Nebraska. And I went from skateboarding, surfing, and BMX to going there in February. Okay, so there was snow everywhere.
It's really warm there in February.
Yeah. And I was like, what the heck is going on? Oh, no, we got something going on.
Oh, my.
Miranda's in
Wow.
front of us taking his shirt off. I don't know what he's trying to throw into the mix here. But no, we I get as soon as it thawed, I'm getting my BMX bike out and riding around. And I found some guys on Graco moto bikes. Full suspension Graco moto bikes that were jumping a wood ramp in their driveway. That was Tim Lilthorpe and Chris Hayden and a guy named Steve Goodnight. And I ride up on a Mongoose with moto mags, redline forks, and they thought I was crazy that I wanted to jump with them because I didn't have any suspension. I was going to break that bike. But they were enamored by my bike because they'd never seen anything like it. And so we became quick friends, and that was Midwest BMX because my father got with a local bike shop, Bill's Bike Barn, and got the first track going. And that was it from there. We started racing in Lincoln and Omaha, and then we went on, and our careers flourished. We raced all through the Midwest. Tim, Chris, and I became pros, and we raced. Then I got into cars, and
How old were you when you got into cars?
15.
Okay.
I got my first car when I
Car
was
age.
15 and a half. Yeah. And so I raced a little less, but I stayed active. And my parents moved back to Scottsdale, Arizona. And so I was in college, and I said, you know what? Why am I staying here in Omaha? I'm going to move to Nebraska, from Nebraska back to Arizona, where I had grown up before San Diego. And Tim goes, I'm going with you. And we went to work for the ABA. And we both had been studying photography, advertising, and we went to work as editors of ABA Action and Bicycles and Dirt. And so Tim and I were there quite a number of years doing that. Tim left to start Reach BMX, and I stayed with ABA and became the vice president. And Clayton and I ran the ABA for many years. And then from there, a friend of mine started Vision Streetwear.
Okay.
And I had brought him in as a sponsor of the ABA Grand Nationals. And after that, he approached me and said, hey, my company's going crazy. You want to move to Southern California and partner up? And I did. And that was kind of in a nutshell my BMX career. We took BMX to Southern California, and that's when Vision got really immersed into BMX with all the pros and all the riders and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, which would have been late 90s.
Would have been actually mid 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like 80, 87, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. I'm showing
86, 87.
I'll play
something
my
like
ignorance card here. Yeah, so it would have been, because I remember seeing it quite a bit at the end of the 90s when I was racing.
Yeah.
And so that was my awareness of it.
Well, everything has a starting and an ending, right? So I came over and it was a much smaller company. We grew it fast, but we grew it. And by, like you said, like the late 80s, Vision Streetwear was everywhere,
Yeah.
We were a force.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really neat. And man, so now you and Tim run this podcast, and you guys have some cool interviews, and I've watched a few of them, and I've had a chance to hang out with Tim a little bit.
Yeah.
Because he comes down from Nebraska, and I'm in Tulsa, and so gotten to hang out with him there. Got to hang out with him at I think it was at Guy Cooper's house when I first met him.
Okay.
And I've seen him around, and we've been in same circles with Cash Matthews and stuff like that. So it's been pretty cool. But do you guys? I would assume you guys have a pretty good time with the podcast, with the show.
Oh yeah, we hang out doing that podcast via Zoom. But like, I went back to Nebraska because I still have relatives back there. So I went back at Christmas time, and Tim and I did some podcasts live together, which was really cool, rather than just Zoom. And the thing is it's so much fun when we do it. A lot of these guys, like we had Toby Henderson on, we had Mike Miranda on, they're guys we hung out with back in the day. So there's so many stories that we lived through. So it gives it a whole different dimension, because we can bring up things like, actually Mike Miranda brought up, he goes, well, Brad, you used to be my boss. And I said, that's right. I had hired him to work for me at Vision Streetwear and run my BMX program. And so he was my BMX manager. And then he turned around in the interview and he said to Tim, and he goes, Tim, and I worked with you at BMX camp because they were both coaches at the BMX camp. And
that's
so
awesome.
There's great history with people that goes beyond just the stories of, hey, so you raced for so-and-so and you raced for so-and-so, you know?
There's a lot more depth to it, which is really neat in the history. I've talked with quite a few people in quite a few different conversations talking about how weird the sport of BMX is. In a really cool way. But it's really weird in the way, one of the examples is you can meet somebody that you've never met in your life and a connection through BMX, and it would not be that weird for somebody to say, oh, well, do you need a place to stay? Or you want to go get dinner together? But you're not going to meet somebody in like that whose kid plays Little League baseball and they go, oh, do you need a place to stay?
Right.
Like that connection doesn't happen. BMX is unique in that way.
BMX and skateboarding are very much the same that way. And I tell the story quite a bit. I own several companies, and one of them that I own is Bond Speed Media, and we produce television. And I will sit at a high-level pitch meeting with a studio, and you'll have some guy walk in full of himself. He's in a suit and tie, or he's sport coat or whatever, and I got 5 minutes. Pitch me your show. And he's just got this attitude like, I don't even want to be here. And I can't tell you how many times I've started out with, well, before I get into the pitch, I just want to tell you, I've been in Southern California for decades, and I'll kind of float into the conversation, Vision Streetwear. All of a sudden, the guy goes, oh, Vision Streetwear? What? I race BMX at the Orange Y, or I race BMX at Rancho or wherever. All of a sudden, you got this guy who didn't even want to spend any time with you, loosening his tie, wanting to be your buddy, just like you said. And by the end, I have actually closed deals because they were a skateboarder or a BMXer, and they want to, all of a sudden, you take them out of this, their big golden seat and back to their childhood, and that's all they want to talk about, and it's really cool. And it's because that's what we did.
Yeah. Yeah, all of a sudden that gate just drops.
Yes.
And yeah, now you can have a conversation, and it's not me against you, but now we're on the same level. That's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's really neat. I think because there are very few sports. I would assume that motocross is similar in that way. Like you probably have some connection there, but even in one of the conversations that I had with Bob Osborne, he's like, no, I don't think there's anything like BMX. I don't
think there is. I mean, skateboarding would be the closest I can think of, and because I was so heavily involved in skateboarding at Vision. But the reason the two are so similar is barrier to entry. Yeah. You don't have to have an expensive motorcycle, a trailer, a truck, all those things. All you have to have or had to have was a dirt lot down the street, a wooden ramp, and a bunch of buddies that had some shovels, and you had your jumping place or you had your berms, and that's what was so cool about it.
Yeah. And even to the extent of you can bricks and a piece of plywood.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's how
some trash cans, right?
Yeah, it doesn't take a whole lot to put together a jump. So, yeah, no, it's really cool.
And when we look back to the 70s and 80s, every single person, and that's why that story about the entertainment world works so well, because everybody had a BMX bike.
Yeah,
I mean, if you talk to someone from that era, that, oh yeah, I had a BMX, I had a this or I had a that, and they always know what number plate they had. They always know what kind of pedals they had, because those were the things that it really was it's the first opportunity for someone to customize and have freedom. So you make it unique in your own because you choose which parts, and then you have the freedom because you're not just limited to the few houses on your street. All of a sudden, man, you can ride anywhere, right?
So, yeah, it's that it's that freedom of now I can go. I'm mobile. I can go and do what I want to do. So, yeah, it's it makes for some good times.
Yeah, no, BMX has always been special, and that is why things like Dirty Fest and Frogtown and all of these have been so successful, because people want to relive their childhood. They want the things when you didn't have to worry about a house payment. You were worried about, could you buy those new flight pads? I mean, that was, and I'll mow a couple more lawns and I can get those bars I wanted or whatever it was,
Yeah.
And
well, being around, so we're at the ABSA show. So being around the bike show, what is the excitement level, or what does this do for you?
It does a couple things. One is I'm, of course, drawn to the DGs, the Mongoose, the JMC. I saw an RRS down here, really rad bikes.
Oh, I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh, yeah, it's a bitchin' black one right there.
Craig Kundig is on my list. Him and I have been talking.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So anyway, okay, sorry. Continue.
And like the suspension bike, and it's all of these bikes that I was talking to James Vicente. We were walking around looking at some of them. And some of them stick out because they're the bikes you would have wanted if you could afford them. But like, I know me, my parents couldn't afford, when I got my Mongoose, that was a big deal. When I had an R&R for a while, but I had some friends that, they went down, got all the red line stuff and, but that wasn't my family. So they mean a lot to you, and there were the bikes you really wanted. But the other thing is, it's good and it's bad, is that with the progression of where we're at, it's also the value and what some of these bikes and some of these bike parts are going for now. And the bad part is you look at it and you go, gosh, I'd love to build a bike like that, but wow, the parts on that are worth so much. The other thing is that the bad part is all those parts I had at one time, and I just gave them away to people, and but what's great about it is that things like the ABSA are keeping these bikes in the forefront, pulling them out of garages, pulling them out of personal collections so that other people can appreciate them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it brings back that nostalgia, those memories.
Yeah.
Those moments of things. And your comment, there are a lot of people that I've talked to that have said, I used to have a bike like that when I was a kid. I think I threw it away.
Yeah.
I think I put it in the dumpster.
Bill Ryan brought back Torker, from Supercross BMX, and he was very generous and sponsored me on one of his new Torkers because I told him the story of how I raced pro with my Torker.
Okay.
And I had a candy blue Torker, and I was telling him all about it. And he goes, well, do you still have it? And I go, unfortunately, no. I said, my now wife, who was then my girlfriend, I said, I wanted to impress her, so I gave her little brother my Torker. And he had it, rode it for a while. And then we talked just this last Christmas. I asked him, like, what happened? He goes, I have no idea. He goes, I think it got left in the attic of my mom's house. And I said, well, let's go over to that house and check the attic out this weekend. And he goes, well, my mom doesn't live there anymore. I go, does that matter? But, so like that bike, I would love to have that bike. I raced nationals on it. I did this, I did that. And now I'm going to replicate it with one of the Repop Torkers.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it'll be cool.
Yeah. There's nobody, I would assume, there's nobody that listens to your podcast, or probably very few people that listen to my podcast that would, even if you were like, let's go over there, if we get caught for breaking into this house, nobody would fault you for it because...
Well, the thing is it was in the attic of the garage, and it was one of those houses where the garage was back behind it.
Yeah.
I said, well, maybe they're gone for Christmas. Well, open the garage, just check up in there. And no, we wouldn't really do that, but sure did cross our minds.
Or even knock on their door and just be like, I got this random quote. I'll even give you some money for it. If there's a bike in there, I will give you, and if it's somebody that doesn't know, you could give them a chunk of money.
I'll give you a couple $100 for that old bike in your attic,
Yeah. I think my friend left it there, and they'd be stoked.
Oh, they'd be like, yeah, that old thing, we've been wanting to get rid of it,
Exactly.
But the way my luck goes, they'd go, you know what? We've had that for years. Just last week, we cleaned the garage and threw it in the dumpster. I'd be like,
Which is a conversation that you really don't want to face. You don't want to hear that.
Nope. But they're still out there because Miranda was just telling me today when we saw this Gary Littlejohn suspension bike right here, this monoshock, and he has one just like it.
Really?
And he said where he found his was he was going over to a friend of his house.
Okay.
And he said he was over there for something for Dirty, Dirty Fest.
Okay.
And he said he walked into his garage and stuffed between the freezer in their garage and a workbench. All he saw were the Astrobula forks and the head tube. And he went, what's that? And he goes, just an old bike I got. And he goes, do you want to sell it? And the guy went, no, but I'll trade it for a set of GT pedals. And he goes, do you have a set? And he told him what kind he needed. And Miranda said, I don't, but by tomorrow at noon, I'll have a pair and I'll bring them over. And he goes, made calls all night, got a pair. And he goes, I went and he goes, now I have one of those.
That's amazing.
And those are the great stories we hear.
Yeah. No, that's really fun. I actually, not to that vintage, but I recently picked up a mini Goose frame.
Oh, cool. Those are rad.
To hopefully build up for the kids to ride. And, found it from somebody out in Kansas, and Tim probably knows him. But anyway, he was just getting rid of it. He sold it at the Grands, and in the time he had given me a price, I showed up a little bit late, and then he had like two other people or one other guy that had made him multiple offers, like beyond double what he was, and he's like, no, I already told Jay I'd sell it to him. But if he doesn't show up with the money, and so I showed up, and the guy's like, you sure you want it? Sure you want it? I want it. So, anyway.
No, that's great. I mean, we've all have these stories. I mean, I sold almost all my bikes when I moved to California.
Okay.
And I had some great bikes because being editor of a magazine, you got test bikes. And Tim and I, to this day, every time we get together, we talk about the one that I got rid of. And at the time, I thought, oh my gosh, I sold it for so much money. But it was a Hutch with Hutch cranks, Hutch titanium spindle, hubs.
Okay.
And I mean, it was all the best. It was a pro, and it was a full Hutch bike that they had sent us for a test bike.
Okay.
And I raced it for a few years, but it had very little use, and I just had to get rid of stuff. And so I sold it, and I sold it for $700, thinking, man, that's all the money in the world for that bike. And I said to Tim just the other day, I said, yeah, I sold that, but what did I keep? I kept the Mongoose scooter that we got sent as a test, which was cool. And it's brand new because we took photos of it. I rode it up and down the block a couple times, and it sat in my garage, but it was easy to transport.
Yeah.
And so it's still in my garage, and it's like, but what that's worth versus what the hutch would have been worth, two different things. And it's not always what it's worth. It's just the technology of the day. It was the top level at the time, which was cool.
So ballpark figure, what would that bike, that condition, go for right now?
That's a hard one because I don't really follow the values so much, but I would say it has to be a $5,000 or a $7,000 bike now, maybe
that was
more.
My guess.
Yeah,
five was my number.
Where the little scooter I've been offered $300 for.
Okay. Yeah.
But cool stuff, know. But one of the bikes that I do still have is I have a 75 Power Light.
Okay.
With the original forks. Again, was a test bike, and we did an article back in, this would have been like 84, 85 maybe, at Bicycles and Dirt, and it was retro BMX, and we built up. Steve Rink sent us the bike and frame, and then another company sent us the bars, and at the time I wanted to put Motomags on it. I called Rusakawa at BMX Products, and I said, hey, Russ, can we get a set of Motomags to put on this test bike? We're going to build it, do a build-up, and then we're going to ride it. And he goes, I will loan you a set. Now, get this. This is BMX Products who made the Motomags, right?
Okay.
He said, now this is an 84, 85. He goes, Brad, I only have 4 sets of Motomags. That is all they saved. So he loaned me the Motomags. We used them for the photo shoot. We rode the bike. Then I had to take the Motomags off, send them back to Russ and for their archives. And then I kept everything else. And when Dirty Fest 1 came, I just put a set of Aria rims on it, and I had the whole bike. And
wow.
And everybody was looking at it going, that's brand new. I'm like, yeah, it is, but the takeaway from that story is that companies don't keep their archives either. You know, they don't have room to keep everything.
No.
And that's why Motomags are worth their weight in gold now today,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, even Chris Muller, he was talking about, he's like, I don't have all my old stuff. I was always getting rid of it.
You can't keep everything, I mean, it's I've owned a number of companies. One of my companies is a Swiss watch company. We have a factory in Switzerland. We make high-end watches. Now, that is the one thing I've kept one of everything because they're so small. You can fit them all in a safe, and I have one of every model we've ever built. But when I was in the car building business, I couldn't keep those. I couldn't, and bikes and things like that, you just can't. There's not room for them.
Yeah.
So
no, I completely understand,
But that's the fun of it. And I think the great thing about this show here today is that look at how the people are coming in. And you know what I dig is that you see some dads, moms coming in with their kids that are racing today, the new school racers. And they get to look back in history and see, what bikes were like. And I think even one of the things that I do miss is the character number plates had compared to today. They just had a lot more character, and it was evolution of the number plate. And I see them out there. They're real small, got a little number on them. They're functional.
Yeah.
And, back then it was a lot of your attitude. It said a lot about who you were and what you're even into, what kind of music, because you'd see a sticker on there, right?
Okay. Yeah. I love the old number plates, the big plates with the big numbers too, but all the stickers and I mean the number plate's always been a pretty important thing for me because it was the thing that you could keep easily after the season, that number, whether it was the earn number or the number that you used to earn the next number,
or the number you wanted.
Yeah,
everybody at one time had a number 1 on their plate, right?
I never did. I was never that guy, but I still have. I mean, and my for the vintage events, I run 196, and that was the number that I rode on my bike the year that I got my highest earned number, which was 25, and where I got to, and that was just a year that we traveled around and raced a ton, and it was tons of good memories.
It's funny when you say numbers. You know, I had 7, 14, 27. I can remember all my numbers just like you could.
Okay.
And now when I go to Vegas, I play those on the roulette board. You know, I go, and they're good numbers. You know, they're good
awesome.
numbers. So that's fun because you carry it all through your life, and they're kind of like phone numbers or addresses you remember from a childhood. You know, and it's like, oh no, I ran 27, I ran 14, I ran 7. You know, and
exactly,
it's cool.
Yeah,
you know,
I agree. Yeah, it's fun.
But yeah,
Brad, thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me on, man. And you know, like I said, we'll have you on Super Rad BMX podcast sometime.
Right on. I'd love to.
Cool.
Yeah, cool. Well, good to meet
Thank you.
And now we have an even longer history. But yeah, I'll grab a hold of Mark and see who
the man who runs all of this.
Yeah. See who he wants to throw up here next.
Yeah. So all right. Well, hey, thank you.
Yeah. Have a good day. And
kicking me off now. So you guys
go. Yeah, you gotta go. So
no, cool. I appreciate it, and I'm gonna go see more of the race and the vendors.
Sounds good. I'll see you out there a little bit later. Cool. Take care. All right. Well, gotta find Mark. There's a couple of people up here wandering around that. Let's see. Mark. All right. Well, that was fun. It's fun getting to chat with some people and be able to have conversations and kind of see what people think and the reason why some of these bike shows are so important to people. I mean, I think the bike show is a really fun dynamic that carries BMX across multiple generations, which is really fun and allows people to experience something a little bit different. So anyway, there's a lot of bikes out here. I'm looking at mid-school right now, 20-inch mid-school. And all right, there. I was just talking about your mid-school stuff.
There you go.
All right. Chris, we need you. Welcome. Cool.
Tired,
Chris?
buddy. Tired.
Yeah. Well, after bringing all those bikes in, did I hear that you had 14?
14, yeah.
14 of them. All right.
Fit them in a minivan. You would never think.
No. Mark showed me a picture. You had a spin wheel like sitting on top, and that's what caught my eye initially.
Okay.
So introduce yourself. Who are you? And then who you are on Instagram. And
okay. Yeah. So Chris Cabral, I'm from Providence, Rhode Island. My Instagram page is BMX Mid School. I specialized in restoring 90s BMX aluminum bikes.
Sweet.
I stick with all aluminum. Try to anyways. Bars, forks, everything's going to be within 2 years. They're correct. From parts, brakes, grips, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty strict.
Your stuff has caught my eye, and we met on Instagram initially.
Yeah.
And your stuff has caught my eye because that's the generation that I grew up racing in. And so from the techniques and the cheetahs and spin wheels, and at one point you had a Huffy Primus that you were getting rid of. And that caught my eye because 99 I bought Huffy had some of the red junior
red and
frames.
black, right?
Mine was just red. It was a two-tone red, so a bright red and a dark red.
Yeah.
So
they made that in 99 and 2000. That's the one I have.
Okay. Yeah. Except mine was a junior frame.
Okay.
And so I bought that and raced on it for I think all of 2000, and really, I mean, loved it. But people were always upset that I beat their kid on a Huffy.
Yeah. I mean, I still get that. Somebody commented on it. It's like, are you kidding me? $2,500 for a Huffy? And I'm like, it was $2,000 complete how it is back in 2000.
Dang, so I did not realize that.
Because it's all got all prime profile parts on it, so it's got really nice parts. Yeah.
So mine I bought just as a frame, and Dan's Comp had it on closeout for $100.
Oh, nice.
Which was cool.
Yeah.
Really fun, but it definitely allowed me to to get it, but it wasn't. I built it up the way that I wanted it. So I put an Answer Alumilite fork on it.
Oh yeah.
Some TNT revolver hubs and
Yeah.
Sun CR18s, Odyssey, Black
18s,
Widow
yeah.
cranks.
Yeah.
And then Kruppy stem, Kruppy bars.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, it was a fun build
all,
as a
those are all
kid.
good parts. Yeah.
And,
super light bike.
An Odyssey A brake.
Those are
And
my favorite.
oh, and then still to this day, my favorite grips are the ATI Jacksons.
Oh, Jacksons. I got a pair of those.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay.
NOS.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to use them for, but I got them.
That's awesome. Oh man, that might be something I buy out here.
Yeah.
Want to tell us about some of the bikes that you've got in the show right now?
Yeah. So I brought kind of all my favorites and a couple new builds. I'll go over the new builds that I brought because I haven't seen them, here or on my Instagram. I just posted them, maybe a little bit over them. One of them is the 1997 Mountain Cycle. I've really been looking for those for a long time now. Just the monocoque style with the cut seat post, which is the first gen.
Yeah.
Super light. It's probably one of the lightest frames. Same builder actually as the Haro Elite, if you didn't know that. Yeah.
Okay.
96 Haro Elites.
I didn't know that.
Same geometry, same rear chain stays, same aluminum thickness. It might even be the same weight.
Okay.
Very similar. But just something a bike I've always seen back when I used to race in the early, late 90s.
Okay.
Clearly I could never afford anything like that, but it was always, and that's kind of how I started building this. I started collecting all the bikes I wish I could have had and all the uniqueness of the 90s.
Makes sense.
I also brought a new 24-inch NOS Technique frame. That's really unique because I built that up with some Atom forks, ATOM.
Okay.
They were only available for 1 year, 1998.
Okay.
Same year as the frame, which is cool. And they were the prototypes, so it was the only pair made in 24-inch.
Wow.
Pretty sick, yeah. So everything's polished over there. It's beautiful.
Okay, I walked
Beautiful
by
bike.
it and I was
Okay.
curious what the forks were.
Yeah, they
So-
look funky.
Okay.
It took me about 2 hours to kind of figure out how to put them together because it's just
Whoa.
the nuts on it on the triple tree. Instead of bolting in, you put the tube up, steer tube up, and you bolt up. It's kind of different to fill up the gap, but you don't have much gap, so you have to use the proper spacer. It took forever.
Okay.
But yes, it's a really unique frame. So between that and the Mountain Cycle, and then my race bike that I used to race is the 2000 Cheetah, the yellow one over there.
Okay.
I kind of changed the parts and made it, more error corrected parts that I wish I could have rode back then, or I didn't want to ruin.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one's super dope. I put the two-tone Toyota tires on it, the ATI grips. Just to add a little bit of color, yellow to the frame. But as far as like what I'm really big with attention to detail. So colorways have to be really proportionate from front to rear. Not too much color unless it's polished. I mean, all polished, nobody can go wrong. I mean, it's like having a chrome bike, like
Exactly. Yeah.
you can't go wrong with shiny,
Yeah.
So what and a DNA. So I brought that one last show, and something was wrong with the brakes, and it broke, but I fixed it. But that DNA is pretty unique because it's actually one of two prototypes, and those were made in Canada.
Really?
Yeah. I think he had a partner, is what I was told. They had a partner that kind of got into it and separated, but they end up going with that similar frame. They changed a couple things on it and named it RPM. So if you ever see that brand, maybe?
Yeah, I've
They're
seen
around
those.
for a little bit longer, yeah.
Okay.
So that's a super unique rear frame. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
just 90s stuff, man. I love it. It's
So-
all unique.
So what was your timeline like in racing?
So I raced from 1993 to 1999.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I graduated in 98, so 99 I started working a lot, didn't race as much. And then 2000 I started traveling, so I couldn't race at all. And then I just I started collecting again around 2008. I did that for about 4 or 5 years, not as extreme.
Okay.
And then I was in nightclubs. I work in Vegas, so I was in nightlife for a long time. Too busy, working crazy hours. And people kept finding out I had, mid-school stuff. And I'm, hey, can I buy this? Can I buy that? I'm like, sure, whatever. And I ended up selling it all. And then 4 years ago, I had my daughter, my first child. and decided to stay home with her and found a hobby. And I was like, you know what? I want to get back to BMX.
That's
And
awesome.
now I have like the craziest, most insane 90s collection probably in the world.
You're always posting pictures, and I'm like, where does he get this stuff? Like, how? I'm amazed, and I'm blown away that similar to the '80s stuff, but like, how does this stuff still exist? Like, I haven't seen this in a long time. It's pretty cool.
It's difficult. It takes. I was just talking to my wife about this a couple weeks ago. I spend so much time on my phone that I've actually got carpal tunnel on my fingers now. Like they're tingling right now. Two of my fingers on this right hand.
Really?
That's how much time I spend. So people are like, oh, they might think I just go to the store and buy this stuff. No, like it takes a lot of work to track this down. Most of the stuff I find are overseas, different countries, just random peoples I find from this person. Oh, I think this person had this in this shed, and I contact this. Oh, I sold it to my friend, or I gave it to my. And I'm always like working down the tree to find like tracking this part. It's crazy, insane. Like my wife thinks I'm nuts, but still loves me, in a sense. Last night, she was like, "Oh, when are you gonna be done packing the bikes?" I'm like, "Oh, like 30 minutes." Like an hour and a half, she comes out, peeks out, and I'm polishing some forks, and I want to switch on a bike. She's like, "You're nuts." But it just needs to be done,
Yeah. When you rolled in, it was the fork on the Technique, right?
Yeah. Switch those out. Yeah.
What kind of fork is that?
So that's the McMahon forks.
Okay.
Made in 1998. Yeah. They made it for 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, I remember the Hannah Brinks from that era.
I did have so I had Redline flight forks on there before.
Okay.
The triple trees. It's kind of the same thing as Hannah Brinks. Yeah. So very similar.
You had, it wasn't that long ago, you had an accelerator built up with flight forks, right?
Accelerator?
A Redline accelerator.
What was it?
The Redline accelerator, the monocoque.
No.
You had a black Redline flight.
Oh, yes.
With
the XLR.
Yeah,
XLR. I still have that. Yeah.
Okay.
I actually never showed that or ridden it ever.
Okay.
It's just something I built and it's just not really feeling. So I'm like, let me just put it up for sale. Somebody buy it.
Gotcha.
I'm surprised nobody bought it. It's a really rare frame. I think it's probably the best Redline frame, aluminum wise, that they've ever made. Or at least the most unique anyway.
Exactly.
But yeah, I got the triple trees on that.
Okay.
A lot of cool rare parts. I did the nipples anodized to match. The colorways look really, really nice on that bike. I get a lot of good compliments, and it's the only one that's black.
Okay.
Usually I go with like factory colors, but that one, so many people have those frames. And it's pretty sought after. I mean, it's like a GT. Everybody wants one.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd do something different with it, and it's powdered it black instead of the polished.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, it turned out good.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then you mentioned the McMahon fork. So I had a McMahon. I look back at it now. So I didn't know what it was because I got out of racing. It would have been around 2001.
Okay.
And I got away from racing for about 20 years, but I was probably around 03, 04. I was with my grandpa at a secondhand store, junk store.
Okay.
And I find this bike frame in the corner, and it was polished, and it had a McMahon sticker, which I'd never heard of, but it was the three, not the monocoque, but like the three welded. It was like almost a tripod looking frame.
Yes. Yeah.
And I went and I was like, how much is this? And the lady goes, what did she say? She's like, it just came in $10. I was like, okay, cool. And my grandpa let me borrow money from him, and I paid him back a little bit later.
Oh, yeah.
And then I went home and I was like, I don't even know what this is. And so I think I hung on to it. Yeah. I mean, and it was a bike frame for $10.
Yeah,
so how do you go wrong?
Yeah.
So anyway, then I think I was probably 19 or 20. My wife and I were like newly married. And so we were broke. And I was like, I'm going to see how much I can get for it. And I think I got like $650.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which, no. So more, I don't know. I guess I could go and look in my
What
eBay
year was
history.
that?
So maybe like 20, maybe it was 2011.
Oh, you kept it that long. Jeez.
Yeah.
It's on the shelf.
So I hung on to it for a really long time.
Yeah.
I think it hung out in my dad's garage. And anyway, but I think they're worth quite a bit.
So funny story about those. Those were to my knowledge, there's only 80 of those made. Somebody said it came across at number 98, but I don't know if the serial was upside down. Who knows? I don't know. But as far as I know, there was 80 made. There might have been a 98 out there, so possibly 100. But the last year, I think it was around 2000, they clearanced them out for like $199 a frame. And today, you can't find one.
Okay.
And everybody wants one because it's the most sought after frame and it's super unique. But it's crazy, 25 years later, something that was super unique but nobody liked back then is now one of the most sought after frames there is.
That's wild.
Nuts, yeah.
How much would you pay for one in like average condition if you found one?
So example of my frame was, so they're all polished. So obviously the polish was really bad, had a lot of scratches in it. I paid $1,700 as it was just for the frame.
Okay.
And then I had it restored, professionally polished, and then I had some decals made to specs of the originals. So probably I'm into that like $2,200 just for the frame.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is a chunk.
It's a chunk. I mean, compared to $200 in 2000. People are laughing at you if you had that bike, but now they're like, "Holy crap, you got a McMahon?"
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, did you ever watch people race on them?
I did. I've seen a few of those.
Okay.
Yeah, back in the day. That was towards the end of my racing, but I remember seeing one of those.
Okay.
Not too much. Like you said, not too many. Maybe it was a team rider. Probably got it for free, sponsored or something. I used to see a lot of Techniques, Hawks, Jazz. That's like my era.
Okay.
The cool bikes that everybody got, team riders had.
And were you racing the East Coast when?
So I raced in, so I moved to Oregon when I was 13. So that's when I started riding.
Okay.
Yeah. So I raced at Emerald Valley in Eugene, Oregon.
Gotcha.
Yeah. That was my home track.
That's
Grants
awesome.
Pass, Cottage Grove.
Okay.
Yeah.
I went
Oregon
there.
area.
I went there when I was, let's see, first time at Emerald Valley would have been, I think I was like 10 years old for a Gold Cup.
Oh, okay, nice.
So,
They got a cool football field, man. It's dope.
Yeah.
It's a nice spot there.
Yeah, it's a cool spot,
Yeah.
cool track.
Yeah, I used to live right across the street from the track.
Okay.
Legit across. I just walk across, and go
Dang.
practice. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That was nice. Nowadays in Vegas, I got to drive 40 minutes to the track.
Okay.
But I still go. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool.
No.
It's a lot different. I actually, I don't know if you stepped on a new era of bike.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I jumped on one a couple weeks back, and I legit was like, I took over the first jump. And it was like an airplane. It just came up. I almost felt like it came up on itself. The geometry is just completely different. And my buddy was like, "Are you gonna get a new bike?" And I'm like, "Man, I'm a '90s guy. I'm just gonna stick with it. I know it's harder to ride a '90s frame, but I'm gonna stick with it." So
Yeah.
I ride right now as a '99 Cheetah Team Line.
Okay.
Is my race bike. It's actually
Right on.
similar to that. Actually, it's the same one as that black one.
Oh, okay.
But it's just red. I did
Right on.
the factory red color, and I got the red handbrakes on triple trees with some spins.
Oh,
People think
wow.
I'm nuts, but
That's cool. I've raced on so I've got a 99, an identical 99 GT Speed Series,
oh yeah,
20 and 24.
oh dope.
And they were raced and owned by my childhood hero and BMX mentor.
Oh, sick.
It's a local legend up in Northwest Washington.
Okay.
It was I did an interview with him for episode 13.
Okay.
But when he moved, he's like, I'm not taking them with me. And so I had the opportunity to buy them from him.
Damn.
And so he had them built with Answer Carbo Pro forks,
Yep.
the US made piston stems, GT bars, Redline flight cranks in 180s, Cell Italia saddles. And on the 20, the only difference was that it was running spin wheels because they didn't have those for the 20.
Yeah.
And
So everything's almost matching.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And so he rode them for a few years, well, for quite a while. And I remember him racing on them, and they're a little bit weathered. I'm conflicted between leaving them as is, the way that he had them, the way that I got them, or actually stripping decals and totally polishing them up.
It's tough. It depends on the bike you're going to build. So if you're going to show it, and you're going to go, you find a bike that you can use, that's, original finished, then maybe just keep original.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some of my bikes, so when I first started collecting, I didn't know nothing about that. I was making everything look new. And then I realized, like, oh, shoot, I just ruined a bunch of parts. I should have probably kept it like this or kept these like this. So now over time, I realized try to keep everything more factory if it's in great condition or, decent condition.
Yeah.
And so it depends on the bike. Some of the bikes, you know, like the Cheetah, the black one, those are powder coated, you know, so obviously it was all scratched up and whatnot. So, all right, I'm gonna restore those. I'll restore the wheels. So like the Techniques polished, even though you repolish it, it's still factory finished in a sense because you didn't change the sense of the color or you know add anything to it. You just shined it up.
Yeah.
So that's a factory finish. And so all the wheels I've had on that, like I had some Odyssey Pro Factors. One of my favorite wheels, the hubs just spin like butter, and they're high flange, which is dope. You know, they just look cool.
That's awesome.
But those were NOS with NOS hoops, you know, stuff like that. I try to keep like NOS. Now I got some HEDs with the carbon fiber Technique hubs.
Those look good.
Oh man, this is a gangster.
They're wild. Would you ride on them?
Probably not.
No.
No. Actually, the funny thing is, I used to ride that bike. The Technique was my baby. I would ride that every single day with my daughter, and now that doesn't get ridden because, you know, if I run over a curb or something or hit something, there's actually aluminum well, and then the carbon fiber is like a plating around it.
Okay.
So if I bent the spoke or something, what happens is it'll crack this carbon fiber. I just don't want that to happen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
expensive those are. I won't say it because in case my wife is watching. But let's just keep them how they are.
That's fair. Yeah, I found a set of spin 1.5s for the Speed Series, and I put them on there, and I've raced it a couple of times with them.
Thin,
but
a little thin.
Yeah,
for us, we're big kids.
They're
now.
they're really narrow.
Yeah.
I also get really hesitant about that would be
Are
a
they
90
carbon fiber or fiberglass.
These ones are fiberglass.
FRs.
Yeah, he had the CRs on it.
Okay, the carbon fibers.
Yeah.
The fiberglass is going to last longer. Carbon fiber starts getting dry and brittle after so many years.
Yeah. And then I'm a little nervous about it would be probably a 98 Answer Carbo Pro fork. Yeah. I'm worried about the glue in between the stanchion and the crown.
Yeah, because there's only is that 2 bolts or 4 bolts? Do they have bolts in those?
2. Yep.
Yeah, there is bolts in those.
2.
So they have aluminum housing on the top, which should be okay.
Yeah. But I feel like, you know, I don't want to come up short on something. And
I mean, we're big kids now, so like when we think carbon fiber, even though they're making carbon fiber frames right now, it still doesn't click. You know, like it may not click with you because it doesn't. It's the same with me.
No,
I see like, oh, these kids are driving carbon fiber frames. I'm like, I don't know if I would ever try that.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, so that's probably how you're thinking is what I'm thinking. I ride Spins, you know, as my race bike now, but they're the fiberglass and they're 1.75, so they're wider.
Yeah,
a little more durable for.
It definitely makes my tire height really tall. I've got Comp 3 175.
Yeah, okay, 175s.
Yeah.
The thing with the 1.5s is when you adjust the brakes, it's like I use a lot of A brakes, for example.
Yeah.
You can only push them in so much before the aluminum arms can have so much attention, and after a while they actually don't break, but they'll twist inside. So the aluminum part that they go in, they actually the bond or however they're put together, they turn. So then you don't get no more attention after that.
Okay.
So those brakes are pretty cool, and you know they're 90s brakes. So just
talking about the Odyssey A brake?
The Odyssey A brakes, yeah.
They were always a pain for me to adjust.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I find them easy now, maybe because I use a lot.
I think I was like 10 years old when I was trying to adjust them.
Yeah,
so that was probably part of it.
But when you're using them on 1.5s, they're really hard to adjust.
Oh, and I was using them on an 1 3/8.
Oh, geez.
So
you got them on 1 3/8.
Yeah.
Dang.
That's
a lot. That's some good attention though. It's like a glue. That's cool.
So. Yeah. So what is your being out at the shows like this? Obviously, you've come out to a few of them now.
Yeah.
And you really enjoy the bike side, but what does being out at the shows do for you?
You know, for me, and people see it differently, you know, but for me, it's my time to show off the bikes that I took so much time and pride, you know, and money and everything into to get to actually show them off to everybody, you know, not just like to win a trophy, you know, because it only takes one bike to win a trophy. I like to bring as many as I can in new builds, in my favorite builds, and swap them up here and there. just to show them to people and tell the stories behind them, because a lot of people like, oh, I used to race that bike when I was a kid, like, or somebody's like, oh, I've never seen this bike. Can you tell me about it? Or my son used to have these wheels, and so it's just more like a talking the bros type thing.
Yeah.
Showing off the bikes and stuff. If I win, I win. It's somebody said like, oh, you're competing against yourself. We're all, you bring 15 bikes, and then there's 3 other people here, your chances to win are bigger. I'm like, well, that's not why I come.
Yeah.
I really do enjoy showing them off, and to me, this is the best time to show them because, whether it's trophies or not, we have a lot of bros here. And, so everybody that's into the same kind of things we are, whether it's 80s, 90s, we can correlate with each other and understand, like, we get each other, so it's just cool, the conversations and meeting other bros, that have the same passion for bike stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah, and show them off. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, you can bring more bikes, and people can comment and say, well, it just increases your chances of winning. That may be true, but even if you bring more bikes for the same category, it's still just you in that category. Like, I mean, at a certain point, so it's not like, so that can't be the motivating factor.
It's eight bikes in 90s. I'm like, there's no 8 places.
No.
So there's only one first, and now everybody wants a first, so there's only one first. But yeah, the whole thing is just to show them off to everybody. It's let people see them around. I feel and we spoke to this about the judges and Mark Darcy before, like, the 90s class is kind of weak. I feel that, the 80s has been around a lot longer, obviously. Older crowds, so they're more into more hobbies than, some of the guys our ages. So there's a bigger class for 80s. 90s is very unique. It's different, and I felt like it kind of like isn't as popular. So when I was talking to Mark and them, the shows, I'm like, yeah, man, let's try to build up that class, and so that's another reason I'm here. I'm trying to get other people to come out, and get the courage to show their bikes off. It's not about competing against each other. It's let's talk to each other. Maybe we can help each other on builds and give each other pointers and. Just sit back and talk bikes. That's There's not a lot of people I talk to because I get a lot of my parts in different countries and all the different. I talk to a lot of bros in Brazil, Canada, Germany. So I bought a lot of the stuff from different countries. So I don't get to actually see people in person as much as that I deal with. So that's kind of cool to build up that relationship with more people that's local.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing quite like being able to be able to talk through and the stories that come from it and the reminiscing. I mean,
we all have memories, of the childhood. Bike stuff. So it's cool to bring that back up.
And one of the things that I had mentioned to Mark Darcy when I did an interview with him was when I noticed it, I went out to a bike show in Carson, California in June of 22. And when we got done with the show I just noticed that there wasn't a lot that I recognized from my childhood represented in the show.
Yeah.
And not that it's not that it's about me, but I just like the show it didn't capture as much of my attention because it wasn't like, ooh, this was the bike that I wanted. Or these were the cranks that I wanted.
You didn't see much that you recognize, that you grew up on. Yeah. I get it. So, and it's nice. I mean, there is all these classes and, like, for example, I know a lot of people that collect 90s bikes, but they don't bring them to shows. So I'm like, well, what do you collect them for?
Yeah.
You just put them in your garage? I'm like, let's show them off, man. Like, that's a big dedication, for the time it takes you to build these and find all these parts and get them. Like, let's go take them out and show them and build up this class, So I started that Instagram, BMX Mid School. And I'm like 500 followers. I mean, I got more followers on that than some of my business accounts, So
dang.
They're out there, So my whole thing is to encourage more 90s people to come out and show their bikes, For example, someone's like a few people's comments are like, oh, well, you're just gonna win anyway because that's what you do. I'm like, yeah, but in the beginning I didn't, So I might have got lucky a few times, because they missed some things or just maybe I had a judge who didn't judge that class and like, oh, this is the best looking bike, let's give them first or second, whatever. But you get lucky sometimes, but there's a lot of things. I mean, I'm still learning. You know, there's a lot of things I'm still learning. I'm still predicting and fixing. You know, get everything dialed in. So it's not really about that. It's really about it's a team effort. You know, everybody's going to get together and we help each other. You know, I just met a gentleman over there a bit ago, and he bought a big warehouse, basically a warehouse in the sense of all NOS parts and whatnot. And he was talking to me. He's like, "Oh, I got a bunch of '90s parts. Like, this is cool. I seen all your bikes, man. I want to get to see like these '90s in person. I always see them in pictures, you know. So it's really cool to see him. Like, I might have some parts that you might be interested in." I'm like, "Oh, cool." We just swap name, you know. Now I got his number, and he might have something I might need, you know. So it's good to get out here and helps you with your searches. It helps you talk about the stuff that you know took you years. I mean, that cheetah took me 4 years just to find all the parts to complete it, you know. So
wow,
it's some of this, you know, it's a big dedication.
Yeah,
show it off, man.
Yeah, that's a lot of time that's gone into it.
And I feel the '90s is, you know, the '80s class. The gentlemen are getting older, you know. It's the '90s. I feel like it should start. I wouldn't say replace the '80s, but it should start building up like that. And it's not. It's a really slow process right now. So we really need everybody that's in the '90s, like, you know, me and you. We need to spread the word more and get this '90s class bigger. You know, it's not about the competition, man. It's just about the bro life. You know?
Yeah,
let's get in there and show them off.
And I think it's really cool to watch families come through here. Brad and I just talked about it before you came up, but like the kids walking through, and I think there's something valuable for about a kid that races now to see where the sport came from.
Yeah.
And you can look through this room and you can see the evolution of the bicycle, of a BMX bike.
Yeah.
And so to go from Stingray to
with
up where it is now,
18 and a half inch top tube to
with a 4-inch crank, 100 millimeter crank, up to what we have now, which is a 22-inch top tube, 23-inch top tube with a 15-inch rear rear stay.
Yeah, now they got 20 millimeter rear axles, and you know the geometry is like,
it's wild.
The seats like basically nothing, no more seat post. You know, we all used to ride with our seat posts way up and still doing tabletops, like no big deal.
Yeah. So for these kids to be able to come out and be able to see some of these bikes, and I mean, I enjoy Dirty Fest because we're getting to watch. And for me, I got to jump on an '82 Redline MX2. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so small. It's so hard to ride.
The handlebars are in and they're super high. And
you got to move them forward. And
you got to move them
and
forward.
Then, but you're like an 18 and a half, 19-inch top tube.
Yeah.
And it's just a tough bike to ride. So for kids to be able to jump on that or to see that and go, oh, that's different. Like, that's not what I started with.
And we're still doing cool tricks back then, you know?
Yeah.
Or not us, but like the 80s, you know? I watch a lot of videos. There's some cool stuff, you know? So it's cool. Yeah, like you said, like we got to continue all the legacies for every generation, you know, on down.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to take it over when, you know, when we go.
Yeah, it's true. No, it's been really fun. But, man, Chris, I appreciate chatting with you.
Yeah, man, it's a good chat. Thanks for having me on.
Being able to meet you via Instagram and talk to you. And
and
then at
some
Dirty
of the bikes
Fest
in person and meet, talk a little bit about them. Yeah.
And then at Dirty Fest, we were both there, and I just completely forgot to.
Yeah.
I think I just ran out of time to get over, and
there's a lot going on there.
We set up all the BMX breakthrough stuff. That was the first weekend that we had launched everything that we were doing. And so we're just so busy with running the booth and everything that we had done. And then after you left, it was like, dang it, I forgot. So anyway.
No, it's good, man. And I'll be around more often. So yeah. And anytime you have any questions, you know,
right on.
Always reach out to me on Instagram.
Cool.
Like always. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to, but no, I appreciate you
yeah.
joining me and having a conversation. And
absolutely, man.
You know, if you're,
see how it pans out, and
go find BMX Mid School on Instagram.
Yes, sir. So, give me a follow.
Right on. Cool. Thanks,
buddy.
Chris.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. Hey, do those pump up? You better know that. I know what those are. Okay. All right, they're gonna give away some stuff. Go for it. You're good. Sweet. Everybody likes raffle prizes. Gonna watch some people win some stuff. All right, if you're watching, what has been the most exciting thing that you've learned about bicycles? Talk to Brad, talk to Chris, and I'd love to know what is it that stood out to you? What era of bicycle are you most excited about? And maybe even what bike? You can drop that in the chat if you're watching along. Would love to hear.
All right. We're going to do some raffle tickets right now. Ready to get out your raffle tickets? I am speaking up.
I'm making fun of Dino.
If you don't have your raffle tickets, you got 30 seconds to get some. They're right there. Wait. Come on, man.
All right. We're going to sign out of this one. We might be back a little bit later.